Welcome back for another book review. Today we are talking about this one. So this is Wild Witchcraft, Folk Herbalism, Garden Magic, and Foraging for Spells, Rituals, and Remedies by Rebecca Meyer. Now this is one of the books that I have had like target added at me all the time. Specifically on Instagram, I swear every day, every other day, this book is promoted. And quite frequently too on Facebook, but this is just one of those books that is just constantly pushed. And I don't know why, like the algorithms that be decided this is the book to push the most, but it is. So I finally decided just to get this from the library. I'm glad I was able to get this from the library. This is not a topic I particularly care about. And honestly, living where I do, it is very rare I would be doing any of this stuff because this is a book on foraging. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's a fancy term for going and collecting herbs and plants and things in like the wild, which to our ancestors would be strange to think you wouldn't do that. But I live in a heavily populated area. There's a big mine that's just on the outskirt of Salt Lake. So I personally have a hard time trusting the soil when we have a whole mine that's like taking up, it's getting to the point where it is going to take over half of like an entire valley. Like it is grown like at least triple, quadruple in my lifetime, where you've lost mountains. Like they have literally taken over a mountain completely and obliterated it to get raw materials. And it sucks. And they're also doing it to the other side. Like it is a mining area and then you have a city in the middle. And so because of that, like the wild areas that we do have are heavily trafficked. Like whether, like a lot of times when you think of Utah, you're thinking Southern Utah. I don't live in Southern Utah. So Southern Utah, it's a little different, but also all of those national parks that we have, everybody around the world. People love to go to Zion's National Park. They love to go to Bryce. Like there is a lot of places in Southern Utah that people will go and visit, which is great, sure, but also, National Forest, pretty sure you can't take a lot of stuff from there. And two, even if you could, it is so heavily trafficked, you don't know what's there. There's a lot of pollution and stuff because there's a lot of cars constantly. And so it just leaves very little for you to just go wild gathering. And if you're going to be using it for like ingesting of stuff, I would say magically maybe it's not as big of a deal, just be cautious. Like, definitely, they're not for, like, your bath salts mixed stuff or anything like that. It's more of, like, an offering or in a spell where it's sitting on your altar and you're not really, like, it's not going to be soaked into your body in any way. And, of course, there's some places where you probably could, but, again, the places where I would be finding that, they're very heavily trafficked by people. So, like, I just wouldn't. And then, again, the mines. There's a lot of off-put from those that are just not great. So that said, foraging just isn't something I would personally do. And again, here, it's just, I'm sure there's places, but I don't know them, nor would I really trust it much. You just don't know. It's the same with the obsession a lot of witchcraft books have of using like spring water and well water, like out in the wilds. You don't know, and like river water, you don't know if it's clean. Like there is one river we go to, like we have property kind of by-ish, and like they have to check that water often because there are things that grow in water. And if there's livestock, like a lot of people will put like, really, it's mostly like cows out here. They'll put cows out on the mountainside for like whatever the season, and then in the fall they like haul them in or whatever. I don't know if it's in the fall, I think it is. Anyways, there's a certain point in the year where they haul them all down and then they go off to the slaughterhouse. And while they're up in the mountains though, that water can get contaminated very easily. If they happen to go by the water, they can leave a lot of diseases very quickly, and a lot of stuff can grow in the water, so you have to be very cautious. And again, I think that comes back to the foraging thing, that you just don't know what's around unless you were like really specifically trained and you know what to look for. But we're talking like at least probably a bachelor's or master's to know what you're doing. So anyways, all of that said, because of that, this is just not a book I particularly care about. And honestly, based on the cover and just the title, I really didn't think that was all this book was going to be about, but it really is. So if you are interested in learning about foraging, this will be a great resource for you. Again, I just don't trust it. The farms that are there out here, like, they are heavily managed because of stuff, and so I trust that way more than little old me just meandering up the mountainside gathering stuff. Again, unless it's for a spell where it just lives on the altar, or I'm going to put it back outside, that I feel like is fine. But anyways, moral of the story is if you are brave enough to go out and forage, this would be a good book for you. In here, it talks about the history and then also a lot of the practicality with it. She does mention a bit about like the legality of stuff. Again, national parks, usually you can't do that. And just the practicality. Again, if you're by a city, you need to be very cautious. There's a lot of pollution that you need to worry about. And one thing that I really did like about this book is that there is a very huge emphasis on you need to know how these herbs that you would be ingesting can affect your medications. Like, there's quite a few that will affect birth control, heart medicine. Like, there's just a lot that your regular, like, medical stuff that you take that like a regular doctor has given you, if you start ingesting certain herbs, it can affect how that is affecting you. And so she tells you, you gotta research, which personally I feel like it's a little bit of a cop-out, but like we're all guilty of it. But like, where do you research it from? Like, where specifically should you be researching? Because everyone says to research it, but where? And it's not necessarily just this book, but I wish there was more of like where to go find that information. I feel like that would have been a better thing if you're gonna constantly say, well, you gotta research, but where? Because you could be my research, you know? Like, I wish there was a little bit more. And asking your doctors, I don't know how much they would know about that. And again, here in Utah, the Mormons are very weird when it comes to teas. Sometimes it's fine, sometimes it's not. Sometimes if it's an herbal tea, it's a problem. If it's decaffeinated, it's not a problem. They change their rules all the time. I can't keep up. They've changed it like at least 2 or 3 times in my lifetime that I've experienced from the Mormons I've known, because they bought stock in Coke, so then suddenly, like, caffeine's fine. They're an interesting set of folks. So that said, I don't know that our doctors, who most of the time are going to be LDS, are gonna know a whole lot about the herbs that you're ingesting and how they're gonna interact. I feel like that would be more of a pharmacist question, because they know the drugs. That's what they have like studied and gotten their degrees in, to know how things interact with each other. But like, they always, like, the reference is like, go ask your doctor, but it's like, should you ask your doctor or should you actually be asking your pharmacist? Because they're the ones that will catch when the doctor prescribes something that counteracts each other. So I wonder if we need to be talking to them more. It's just one of those things, like, when you say research more, tell me the where. Or is there like specific books that will talk about, like, in general, birth control pills, you probably shouldn't mingle with these herbs. I don't know if that book exists in like the herbology, like specific, like actual like herbalism community. What, not even witchy included, just straight using herbs as a way, and like plants and things, to manage your body, opposed to modern medicine. That kind of community, I don't know if there's a book that exists with that. So anyways, moral of the story, I do like that she warns you for some. I just wish when they, and again, a lot of people do this, they'll say just research further. Maybe we could start a conversation of where that research should be. Like, where can you find that information, at least vaguely? In my own book, I'm trying to do, like, most of it is going to be like, you need to talk to like either a lawyer or you need to talk to a funeral director. Between those two, you should get the answers you need for that particular book. But like for this, I don't know, where do I need to go? I'm assuming a pharmacist. I don't know. So anyways, overall, it is a pretty good resource, again, if you are into foraging. If you are into that type of magic, this is a great book. Otherwise, I don't really think you would need to pick this one up. I'm glad I got it from the library, because I've realized it's not one that I would ever really need after this. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this one in the comments down below. Huge thank you to my patrons. I'll have their names over here. If you'd like to support me and get access to exclusive content, it is patreon.com/nightwillowcrafts. Starting in August, as my book is getting close to publication, I will be posting a couple of the chapters here on my channel, and the rest will be going up monthly on my Patreon as a thank you to my community. So be looking for that in August. After the first, like, I have a week where the audio chapters will be going up. After that, weekly on my Patreon, a chapter will be uploading. I think I'm gonna post them on Thursdays and just have a plan of like every Thursday there's gonna be this audio offering of my book, because again, this is one that I would love to have for the community, but also like it is still my job, so that's like my kind of workaround of things. And yeah, so anyways, whether you want to get it through my Patreon as an audiobook, it will take some time because there's like 30 something chapters, so it'll be a minute. Or if you want to just buy an ebook, paperback or a hardback, it will be available early August, so keep an eye out for that. I will post when it is available. I did all of my major edits this past week, and so now I'm waiting for my final copy to get here, and then part of that is also going to be going through the audiobook too, and like when you actually read it out loud, you find sentences that you're like, oh, that's a bad one. Like, you read it, it sounds wonderful, and then you try and speak it and you're like, that is a bad sentence. Why does that exist? Like, you just get tongue-tied and you're like, oh, okay, we gotta rework that. That's the good thing about an audiobook. I'm not doing that for all of my books, but probably my witchy ones I will. And I'm not posting it on Audible or anything like that because it's a mess. So that is the only way you will get my audiobook. Anyways, that will be coming out in August though, so make sure to check out my Patreon for when that starts to post next month. And of course we've got other content over there as well, but that is just the most exciting new one. Until next time, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I post every single day. And until next time, thank you so much for watching, and blessed be.